Building a custom home, I mean, that's the dream, right? But let's be totally honest. That dream can feel like it's one step away from a financial nightmare if you're worried about blowing the budget. So what if you could build with total confidence? Today, we are laying out the blueprint to keep your finances on solid ground. That way, your biggest worry is what color to paint the walls, not how you're going to pay for them. Let's dive in. If that question hits home for you, you are definitely not alone. It is the #1 concern for pretty much everyone, and for good reason. But here's the good news. That anxiety, it doesn't have to be part of your story. A well-managed budget isn't about some crazy complicated spreadsheet. It's really just about a simple, logical framework that gives you control and, way more importantly, peace of mind. So where do we even begin? Well, we start by understanding that every single dollar you spend is going to fall into one of just 3 basic categories. Think of these as your budget's 3 main pillars. You get these right, and you're building on solid rock. But if you get them wrong, the whole project can start to feel pretty shaky. Okay, so take a look at this breakdown. It's actually pretty fascinating. The huge majority of your budget, we're talking around 75%, goes to what we call hard costs. That's the physical stuff. And that leaves the other 25% for the less obvious, but just as critical, soft costs. Let's break down exactly what that means.
Hard costs are the most straightforward part to wrap your head around. I mean, think of them as literally the bricks and mortar, everything you can physically see and touch. This covers all the lumber for the framing, the shingles on the roof, the drywall, the plumbing, and of course, the pay for every single person on site who is physically building your home.
So if hard costs are the body of the house, then soft costs are kind of like the brain. This is the invisible structure, all the absolutely essential services that bring your project to life on paper and make it legal. We're talking about your architectural plans, building permits, land surveys, even the fees for your loan. Underestimating these, well, that's a classic and very costly rookie mistake. And the third pillar, and this might just be the most important one, is your financial safety net, the contingency fund. Because let's face it, no plan is perfect and surprises will happen. This fund is a non-negotiable part of a responsible budget, and it's set aside only for those truly unexpected problems. And you'll see in just a minute why that distinction is so important. Now, let's talk about the phase where you have the absolute most control over your final costs. Pre-construction. So many people try to rush this stage, and believe me, it is a recipe for overspending. The detailed work you do right here before a single nail is hammered is your single most powerful tool for a successful build. Before you even start looking at floor plans or falling in love with countertops, you need to talk to a lender. Getting pre-approved for a construction loan is step 1, period. It sets your absolute budget ceiling and gives you a real concrete number to work with. But remember this crucial point. Just because you can borrow a certain amount doesn't mean you should. Building a buffer below your max is one of the smartest things you can do. Next, you've got to get really honest with yourself and separate your needs from your wants. Needs are the non-negotiables. You need 3 bedrooms, you need a 2-car garage. Wants are the nice-to-haves, that amazing back deck, the fancy quartz countertops. Making this list right now gives you a powerful roadmap for when you have to make tough spending decisions down the line. Okay, we need to talk about a notorious budget trap called allowances. Your builder's going to set aside a specific dollar amount for things you'll pick out later, like faucets or light fixtures. But here's the danger. Those amounts are almost always based on standard, builder-grade materials. If your taste is even a little bit more high-end, you can blow right past these allowances without even realizing it. Your architect and your builder are your best friends when it comes to protecting your budget. You absolutely have to insist on incredibly detailed plans from your architect. Vagueness is the #1 enemy of an accurate budget. And when you're choosing a contractor, look for transparency and trust, not just the lowest price. The right team is honestly the best investment you can make in the whole project. All right, so the plans are finalized, the shovels are in the ground. Your role now shifts from pure planning to active monitoring. Now, this isn't about micromanaging your builder. It's about being an informed, engaged, and proactive partner in the whole process. So how big should that safety net really be? Well, the industry standard is pretty clear. Your contingency fund should be somewhere between 10 and 15% of your total hard and soft costs. Now, to put that into perspective, for a $400,000 project, that's an extra $40,000 to $60,000 that you need to have sitting there, ready to go. And this brings us to the unshakable golden rule of contingency funds. This money is for genuine, unforeseen problems only. Like, say, the excavation crew hits a giant boulder that nobody knew was there. It is not for deciding halfway through the build that you suddenly want that screened-in porch after all. Using your safety net for upgrades is the absolute fastest way to put your entire project in financial danger. Now,
Let's talk about the single biggest threat to any construction budget. It's called the change order. A change order is the formal process for changing anything in your original contract. Anytime you decide to change something, and I mean anything at all, it has to be managed with extreme discipline through this process.
This four-step process is your shield. First, you request the change. Simple enough. Second, the builder calculates exactly what it will cost. Third, you get a formal document spelling out that cost to the penny. And fourth, and this is the most important part, only after you sign off and approve it does any work actually begin. This formal process gets rid of all those casual, hey, while you're at it, requests that can secretly sink a budget. You know, one of the smartest ways to protect your own budget is to simply learn from the mistakes other people have made. So let's look at some of the most common pitfalls that trip people up. Just knowing what they are is half the battle. So, a couple of major issues get people time and time again. The first is falling victim to this subtle but really dangerous thing called upgrade creep. And the second is totally forgetting to budget for all the costs that come after the house is technically built. Let's dig into both of those.
Upgrade creep is so sneaky, and that's what makes it so dangerous. It's that little voice in your head that says, oh, it's only a few $100s more for the better faucet. But when you make dozens of those small decisions over the course of a build, they can easily add up to a $10,000 or even $20,000 overage that you just never saw coming. It's like death by 1,000 cuts for your budget.
And please, whatever you do, don't forget this. The spending is not over when they hand you the keys. You need a completely separate budget for all the things that actually make a house a home. New furniture, window treatments for every single window, and those final utility hookup and loan closing costs. Factoring these in from the very beginning saves you from a really nasty financial shock right at the finish line.
So let's bring it all together. Your blueprint for financial peace of mind really boils down to this: meticulous pre-planning, a protected contingency fund, a transparent builder you can trust, and disciplined tracking of every single change. If you can master these, you'll ensure the home building process is just as rewarding as the final home itself.
And that leaves us with one last question to ask yourself. After everything we've talked about, from the temptation of those allowances to the danger of upgrade creep, what do you think is the single biggest threat to your personal budget? Because knowing your own weakness, well, that's the very first step in building your defense.